As a quick reminder, as soon as I hear the bell chime, bling, come on. There we go. All right. So cognition, again, is just a fancy word for thinking. And so all of the different thought processes that we have are a part of the cognitive field. All right. So when we think, when we imagine, when we do something with the experiences that we have and we try to manipulate them inside our heads, we are actually manipulating and processing mental images. If you are imagining practice for a job interview, you are taking the situations that you have experienced and going through the process of what it would be like if I did this. What would it look like? What would I say? What would they say? What would it, what would happen? Things like that. So cognition itself is the process of visual imagery inside our heads. Sometimes those visual images can take the form of symbols or symbolic imagery. A symbol is something that stands for something else. Typically, those things are broad concepts or broad abstractions that we have kind of a baseline image of. For example, if I ask you to imagine or think of the term or the idea of justice, whatever image immediately pops into your head of what justice is, that is kind of your symbol for that image or for that abstract concept. Justice is something that you can't really picture in your head, but you might be picturing scales, or you might be picturing the statue of justice with the blindfold and the scales. You might be picturing a certain situation of somebody being served justice, whatever it happens to be. Maybe you're picturing a courtroom or a lawyer. That is your symbol for justice. Okay, we all put these symbols into our thought processes all the time. Now, an abstraction is a thought that is there isn't anything that can be specifically pointed to. The idea of justice. Justice is an abstraction. We all know what justice is, or some of us do, but we can't really describe it easily because it's a huge concept that covers a lot of ideas. Same thing with equality. Well, it's where everybody's equal. So, like, literally everybody's equal? Well, no, we're all still individuals. Oh, okay, so it's not that. It's what else is it? Oh, well, it's, this, and this. Democracy. We all know democracy when we see it. Most people. But the idea is that it is an abstract term. Okay, it's more than just, oh, well, this is democracy. This pen, this is democracy. You can't point to it and say, well, that's what that is. There is a lot of things that cover that. Okay, it is basically kind of an idea, an abstract idea. Concepts are how our thought processes organize things. Remember when we talked about reaching into the filing cabinet and pulling out a big chunk of information? Well, that chunk of information that you're trying to remember is a concept. You pull out the complete concept, and now you can thumb through it all and look through everything, trying to find the information that you're looking for. But you're going to find a lot of other stuff included as well. Okay, these are categories for classifying people, things, events. It's basically just kind of a broad stroke. Okay, so when I think of airplane, reach into that filing cabinet and pull out everything that I can remember about airplanes and all of the different images that I have in my head of what an airplane is and what an airplane is not. You know, does it flies, it looks like this, it looks like that, these type of things. And ultimately, I think this is the reason why things like the Wikipedia are so very successful, because they organize things into broad concepts, and then you can kind of fall down a rabbit hole as you get more and more specific, and you can find things related to other things. And it makes it so that we can very, very quickly find lots and lots of information. And here's the thing about our brains. Our brains are hungry for information. Okay, they always are looking for new information, more information, better information. It wants more and more and more all the time. It's always looking out for more input. Okay. So the Wikipedia basically feeds that need for input, because you can click on a link and then click on a link and then click on a link, and you can start learning about all these different things, and you can start reading about them, and your brain just goes, yes, give me more. What's this? I've never heard that before. Ooh, what's that? And you just keep going and going and going. Okay. If you've ever been stuck in the Wikipedia rabbit hole, where you're supposed to be researching something, and so you look something up really quick on Wikipedia, and then suddenly 4 hours later you kind of stick your head up and you're like, what day is it? That's because your brain wants that information. Now, making it so that you're getting the information that you're supposed to be getting, that's kind of a challenge. For example, if I had the ability to figure out how to make it so that you would be interested in like geometry, I'd probably win the Nobel Prize. We haven't figured that one out yet. How to focus your attention on what you're supposed to be interested in. And by supposed to, I mean like for school stuff. So we haven't gotten to that point yet, which is probably for the best. Yeah, probably for the best. Anyway, so beyond just thinking about things, okay, one of the other things that the human brain can do is solve problems. Okay, and there are a couple of different ways that we solve problems. So remember, cognition, it's just everything associated with thinking, knowing, remembering, and communicating. So that's basically everything that we're going to be talking about between today and Monday. Okay. Now, when we are presented with a problem, there are a couple of different ways with which we can solve that problem. Okay. My problem right now is I don't have any chocolate cake. That's a problem. I need some chocolate cake. So how do I solve that problem? Well, I can do an algorithm. I can use an algorithm to create a chocolate cake. And an algorithm is basically a methodical, logical rule or procedure that guarantees that you solve the problem in a particular way. Okay? A recipe is an algorithm. If I follow the recipe, I will produce a chocolate cake, and I will do it every single time. I will do it. I will get the same chocolate cake every single time, as long as I follow the instructions. If I follow the instructions, I will make a chocolate cake. Okay. Math problems. Those are algorithms. If you follow the algorithm of addition and subtraction, you can figure out how to add 2 and 2. Oh, it's 4. Okay. So an algorithm is two different ways of explaining what an algorithm is a math problem, because that uses the logical rules of addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, etc., 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 and also a recipe. If you follow the recipe, you're going to get a chocolate cake. The problem with algorithms is that they are incredibly slow. Okay. Most people don't use algorithms for things, especially once they have a large experience with them. Once you've had a lot of experience with doing something, you don't need the algorithm anymore. I don't need to actually sit down and do the math problem of 2 plus 2. I know it equals 4. Okay. People who make chocolate cake a lot, well, I know how to make a chocolate cake. I don't need to follow the recipe anymore. I can eyeball it. This is what we call a heuristic. A heuristic provides a problem-solving shortcut. Okay. Oftentimes they involve kind of a rule of thumb, kind of like, well, that's about right, good enough. I don't have to measure a cup of butter. I know what a cup of butter looks like. That looks like a cup of butter. I'm using that. Okay. However, if you follow the algorithm, you will very carefully measure the cup of butter, the 2 cups of sugar. You will have the 3 eggs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. This moves along a lot quicker than following the algorithm. Okay. Before my grandmother died, she made cinnamon rolls. It was one of her specialities. And she did not need the recipe any longer. So she didn't have it written down anywhere. Luckily, before she died, we managed to get the recipe out of her so we could have her cinnamon rolls after she died. But my sister had to sit down with her and write everything down. And my grandmother was just like, I just make it. I just use the ingredients and I make the cinnamon roll. I don't, watch what I'm doing and write everything down. So that's what my sister had to do. Now, when I make those cinnamon rolls today, I follow the recipe because I'm not making a weekly batch of cinnamon rolls like my grandmother used to do for my dad and his sister. Okay. So I'm not doing a heuristic. I'm following the recipe. My grandmother, on the other hand, would use her heuristic. Okay. Here's the problem with heuristics. Okay. Cutting corners and not using the recipe can sometimes leave things out. One time, my grandmother accidentally forgot the cinnamon in the cinnamon rolls. Okay. She made the cinnamon rolls, pulled them out of the oven. Everything was great. And then she took one and ate it and went, these are kind of bland. It didn't taste like cinnamon at all. Oh my God, I forgot the cinnamon. And then proceeded to sprinkle cinnamon on the top of them and hope that nobody noticed. Of course, they noticed. It then became kind of a running joke every time that we had cinnamon rolls from Grandma of, did you remember the cinnamon? Did you remember it? To the point where even to this day, when I make the cinnamon rolls, my dad insists on asking me, did you remember the cinnamon? I didn't forget the cinnamon. Grandma forgot the cinnamon. And that was decades ago. Why are you asking? Yes, I put cinnamon in the cinnamon rolls. Okay. Sometimes the heuristic can get us to the wrong solution because we are not following the algorithm. The algorithm ensures that we get the correct answer every single time. The heuristic, it might not get us that every single time. Another heuristic that's out there is getting advice from somebody else. Okay, let's say you are, I don't know, maybe you're 80 credits short of graduation. Okay, that's a lot of credits. How on earth are you going to make those up? Well, if you follow the algorithm, you will do these steps. But there's always that person who's like, oh, yeah, so I did this and I was able to get like 120 credits, like really, really fast. Oh, okay. And you follow their advice and you don't get those 120 credits really, really fast. You struggle because it was the wrong step for you. because their experiences were different from yours. And following their heuristic, their advice, puts you on the wrong path, and now you have to struggle through it. When you get advice from somebody for a problem that you're having, whether it be a problem with your significant other or a problem with your parents or whatever, you're relying on that my experiences are lining up with your experiences. And I can guarantee they probably don't. Okay. My parents are from a different time than your parents. I am from a different time than you are. What my parents did is probably not going to be what your parents are going to do. Any number of different things. Okay. So listening to a person's advice can save you time and can help you out, but it can also put you on the wrong path as well. Now, when we are problem solving, we can also have moments of insight. It's that moment when suddenly all of the pieces fall into place and everything suddenly makes sense. That feeling is the feeling of insight, that aha, finally, that glorious feeling when you finally have figured it out. And I'm going to give you a chance to be able to do that today. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a word that I'm going to give you 3 words. When combined with one word, so each word is combined with one word, it is going to create 3 new compound words. So for example, if I gave you the word sea, okay, and the word clam, you would come up with shell, seashell, clamshell, shell. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 words, and I want you to add 1 word to each of those words to create 3 new compound words. Now, when that happens, okay, what I want you to do is I just want you to put into the chat window, got it. Okay, when the light bulb goes off over your head, just say got it. Don't put the word in the chat window for the love of God. Okay, every year I say this because every year I get somebody, well, when we're face to face, they'll just blurt it out. And then it's like, okay, so you ruined the insight for everybody else. Good job. Okay, don't be that guy, right? All right, so here are the words. Again, I'm going to give you 3 words. You're finding 1 word that when added to the 3 words, create 3 new compound words. All right, the words are pine, crab, and sauce. Okay, when you get the idea, say, got it. Okay, put it in the chat window. Please don't say the word out loud or put it in the chat window. Let people have that opportunity of being able to have insight. Okay, I'll give you about a minute, and after a minute, I'll give you all a hint. Pine, crab, and sauce. Okay. Give you another couple of seconds before I give you the hint. Yes, 1 word that you can add to all of them, creating 3 new compound words. Okay. Here comes the hint. The hint is fruit. Fruit. Okay. We're starting to get it. Okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It's not a credit or no credit thing. Just try. Okay. Another like couple of seconds, and then I'll just give you the answer, and then we'll talk about what was going on inside your brain while this was happening. Okay. So for those of you who are still trying to figure it out, okay, the word is apple, pineapple, crab apple, applesauce. Okay, that's the one word, apple, pineapple, crab apple, applesauce. What's a crab apple? It's a little tiny apple. They're really gross. You don't want to eat them. Okay, so what was going on inside of our heads? Well, in doing studies of insight, okay, people were put into fMRI devices or functional magnetic resonance imaging devices. And basically, it's a big magnet that can see inside our skull and what activity is going on inside there. Don't ask me how. I've never had an MRI, but it's pretty cool when you think about it. Anyway, what they found is that while your brain is trying to figure out the problem, your frontal lobe is just sitting there and lighting up like a Christmas tree. And then as soon as that moment hits where it's like, blink, it makes sense, I know what the answer is, your right temporal lobe, right behind your right ear, suddenly clicks on and everything starts fizzing in there. Okay, so lots of activity going on in that part of your brain. Now, why that's the case? We don't know, but we know that that's what happens. Okay. It's the same kind of a thing with a joke. Okay. If you've ever heard a joke that you didn't quite understand, and then suddenly it's like, oh, I get it. Okay. That's the same thing. Your frontal lobe is lighting up, and then suddenly your right temporal lobe boop, clicks on. I got it. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay. There's actually a lot of those jokes out there. For, well, some people there's a lot of those jokes out there. Some people there's less of them. Let me see if I can find. Oh, for crying out loud. No, I don't want that. Okay. So this is considered to be one of the funniest jokes of all time. And it's actually really, really funny. Okay. Two hunters are out in the woods when one of them collapses. He doesn't seem to be breathing and his eyes are glazed over. The other guy whips out his phone and calls 911. And when the 911 operator picks up, he gasps, "My friend is dead. What can I do?" The operator says, "Calm down. I can help. First, let's make sure he's dead." There's a brief silence. Then a shot is heard. And back on the phone, the guy says, "Okay, now what?" So, as you heard that joke, It went into your brain, and your brain had to think about it for a second. And then when it gave you that, oh, I get it, that's when it produces the laughter. Okay, first let's make sure he's dead. All right. Then he shoots him because he's a hunter. All right, let's move on. And let's talk about how our decision-making and judgments can actually backfire on us because of the way that our thought processes work. Okay, so when we are thinking about things and when we are making judgments about things, we can fall into some thought traps. And those thought traps happen because of faulty logic and faulty thought processes. And a lot of these, you can look outside your window and you can see happening in the real world around us right now, because there are a gigantic number of people who are using bad logic and bad thought processes to come to incorrect conclusions about things. So, first and foremost is the availability heuristic. Now, what exactly is that? Well, a heuristic is a rule of thumb, remember? So an available heuristic is one that is available to you. And the more that something happens to you, the more that comes up, and it starts to be seen everywhere. For example, when I was a kid, my dad got a new car. And then after we got that new car, suddenly I was seeing that car everywhere. I didn't see it, and then suddenly we would be driving somewhere and I could count the number of cars that were my dad's car. Never saw it before. Suddenly I'm seeing them everywhere. Okay, that is an availability heuristic. The more something is in your mind, the more you see it. Now, how can this lead us in a bad direction? Well, for example, let's say that you're listening to a news report, okay? A news report of a bomb going off in a city. Who did it? What is your available heuristic? What is the thought that comes into your mind? Who did it? The news is calling it terrorism. Who did it? This is where you answer me. Tell me who did it. Yes, a terrorist. What is the available heuristic of a terrorist in your mind? An armed foreign guy. Yeah. Trump supporters at the Capitol. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Anyway, what if I told you, nah, it's just a white guy? Because that happened on Christmas Day. You remember back on Christmas Day when there was a bomb that went off in Nashville, Tennessee, downtown Nashville? Huge bomb exploded. Yeah, white guy. You don't remember that? Yeah. Why didn't crazy loner white guy come into your mind? Why was it an armed foreign man? Because that's our available heuristic. It's what we saw over and over again on the news, in media, whatever. We see that over and over again. It becomes what is available to us, because the quicker that it comes to our minds, the more we're going to see that happen again. Okay, if I happen to say, we've got there are armed thugs coming to the Capitol building, your mind is probably giving you pictures of people of color. But if I say armed protesters, you're probably not. Or maybe you are. Okay, maybe you're beginning to change that because, and here's the problem, Once you've started to set an available heuristic, it becomes increasingly difficult to change. And it takes a lot of time and energy to get those things to change in your mind. Okay? So the terminology that we use when I say, oh, there were protesters at the Capitol building, you might be picturing, peaceful protests of the Black Lives Matter people, or peaceful civil rights protests, or peaceful protests at all. That becomes your available heuristic. And so when you see who actually was doing it, your brain gets really confused and tends to start to forget that information sooner rather than later. Okay? Because when I said a bomb was set off in downtown Nashville, Tennessee, I'm guessing a lot of you didn't even know about it. Yeah, it was a domestic terrorist. A domestic terrorist. An armed white dude packed his RV with explosives, parked it in front of AT&T, basically a kind of a central node for the internet for Kentucky and Tennessee, and blew up his RV. After he did give people a warning to get away. And then he exploded the RV. Timothy McVeigh loaded up a moving truck with fertilizer and explosives, parked it in front of a federal building in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and blew it up because he didn't like what the federal government was doing. Domestic terrorist. But that wasn't the word that gets used. So we tend to forget about it. Oh yeah, whatever. It's gone. It's over now. So, another thing that can lead us astray in our thought processes is fixation. This is where you get so stuck in a particular viewpoint, and I'm going to solve the problem this way, that somebody can come up from behind and go, why don't you just do this? I mean, this is much easier to do it this way. And you're like, oh, why didn't I think about that? Because your brain was fixated in a particular course. Okay. The same thing with our example of pine, crab, and sauce. If you thought maybe you got crab shell and you went, is pine shell, pine shell, crab shell. Okay. Yeah. Shell sauce. Is that a thing? You might have gotten stuck thinking about things one particular way. And then as soon as I said, hint is fruit, you look at it from a different perspective and you can get the answer right away. Okay, that's what fixation can do. We get stuck in a rut and we can't find our way out of it quickly and efficiently. Okay. Sometimes we need to have that fresh perspective, and sometimes we can even provide our own fresh perspective by going to sleep and coming at it tomorrow. Because the problem is still going to be there tomorrow. But when you wake up, maybe you won't be fixed in that process that you were in before. Maybe you'll come at it from the other side and be able to solve the problem right away. Okay. That's why it's kind of important to, sleep on things. It helps. Confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is all around us all the time. You are guilty of it. I am guilty of it. Everybody is guilty of it at some point in their lives. Usually on a daily or weekly basis. Some people, it's on the hourly basis. But in confirmation bias, this is where you look for evidence that proves that you're correct. And you don't ever look at evidence that might prove that you're incorrect. So you have the answer. Now I'm going to find the information to prove that that is the correct answer. That is a confirmation bias. Okay. This is where you might be arguing with somebody and you go and you're like, no, I'm right. Here's my information. And you bring them information without looking at the other side to say, oh, yeah, the other side's got a point too. Yeah. Okay. We all look for evidence that proves what we think is correct. We all do that. Okay. It's what we do. Being aware of that and being able to look beyond that is really, really helpful for our thought processes. It's something to think about. Okay. In real life disagreements, ordinary people evade facts, they become inconsistent, or systematically defend themselves against the threat of new information. This can help to describe all of those conspiracy people out there. Okay, why do people believe these wild and crazy conspiracies? Because they're only looking for evidence that proves that they are correct. That's all they're looking for. I'm right. Here's more proof that I'm right. And any evidence that proves that they're wrong, they either are not listening to or have found a way of discounting it to say, nope, 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 nope. That's not happening. That can't happen. Okay. There are people on the internet that firmly believe that Trump is still the president. He is now the shadow president. And Biden is going to take orders from him and do what he wants him to do. Yeah. Okay. That Biden and all of the other child pedophiles out there who are in power, they were tried and convicted on Sunday, but instead of having all of that information come out, because that might start a second civil war, they instead kept it secret, and it's now hidden. It's below the surface, something no one can prove or disprove, because now it's below the surface. That is confirmation bias. It's a lot of other things on this list, and we'll get to that in just a minute too. But ultimately, it's confirmation bias. They saw the inauguration with their own eyes, but they're sure that that's still not happening because they are also overconfident. Overconfidence is something that we as human beings are really not very good with. We tend to overestimate all of our abilities, and we also overestimate our own cognitive abilities. Okay. For example, in a study where they asked a question, is absinthe a liquor or a precious stone? They then asked the people that question, and then how confident of your answer are you? Scale of 1 to 100. How confident are you? And they said, okay, 60% answered correctly. Okay, so just over half. Most people didn't know. Okay, they were guessing. But the average confidence rate was 75%. Okay, even people who said they were 100% confident of their answer were incorrect 15% of the time. I'm 100% sure. You were wrong. Oh, well, I didn't know. Then why were you 100% confident in your answer? Because I'm a smart person. Duh. Okay. History is full of people who are more confident than they are correct. Lyndon Johnson in Vietnam, or George W. Bush with the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. He was confident they were there. They were not. Okay. We also see it in classrooms full of overconfident students who walk out of a test going, hell yeah, I aced it. Oh, yeah, I totally got an A. And they totally did not. I see it every single year. Every year when it comes time for the AP US history test, people come back from the test and they walk in the door and they have a big fat smile on their face. I nailed that test. I had it. Oh, it was great. It was great. Oh my God. You're not going to believe this. I got a 5. And those people always got a 1. Okay, it's like, yeah, I still remember my first year teaching. People were coming in. Oh, yeah, it was so easy. I nailed it. And I remember telling that to the other AP US history teacher, Mr. Tassinari, and he kind of looked at me and he chuckled. He's like, yeah, those kids didn't pass. But they're confident they did. They feel like they did pretty well. Yeah, they didn't. Oh, okay. And then when the scores came out, oh yeah, no, those the most confident people were the people who got 1s. I nailed that test. So I warn my students every single year, no matter how you felt you did on that test, just lower your expectations just a touch. We also tend to believe that we'll get things done sooner than we actually will. If I give you an assignment and I say I'm giving you a week to do it, it might be because I think it's going to take a full week to do. But you're going to say, nah, I got this. I'll wait until the night before. It always takes more time than you think it's going to take. Give yourself some more time. All right. The next thing that can lead us astray is framing. How you frame a question or a problem or a situation can lead to different thought processes about that particular idea. So, for example, let's say that there are 2 patients who are undergoing the exact same surgery for the exact same problem. And I tell the first patient, there is a 10% chance of death with this surgery. 10% chance of death. It's pretty serious. And I go into the next person and I tell them, you have a 90% survival rate. If you do the surgery, you will survive 90% of the time. Which feels worse to you? Knowing that they are exactly the same, which feels worse? The 10% death rate or the 90% survival rate? Yeah, the 10% death rate. Oh my God, 10% people die? Well, yeah, but 90% live. Yeah, but 10% die. I don't want to be at 10%. It feels different, even though it's exactly the same. Framing is a powerful tool of persuasion, and it is used by politicians all the time. Okay? Are you pro-life or are you pro-choice? Notice it's not, are you pro-life or anti-life or pro-choice and anti-choice? It's pro-life or pro-choice. Okay. Would you be more apt to support public assistance if we'd said that it was aid to the needy? Or if it's welfare? We're going to give more welfare. A lot of people have a really strong dislike for that word. But if I say it's aid for the needy, oh, well, they're needy. We should help them. Oh, okay. You support welfare. No, I don't support welfare. It's all down to how it's framed. Okay? If I were to say that a chemical kills 10 people in 10 million, okay, a 10 in 10 million chance of death, or has a fatality risk of 0.0000001%. The 10 in 10 million is a real number that your brain can wrap itself around. 10 people died. Yeah, out of 10 million. But 0.0000001%, which is exactly the same number. Your brain can't wrap itself around that. And it goes, spray that crap everywhere. I don't care. I'm not going to die. It's all how it gets framed. How you frame your argument is important. And it can lead people to make poor choices and poor decisions. All right, belief perseverance. This is something that often fuels social conflict. And we're seeing it happen right now. I mean, open your window, look outside, you'll see this belief perseverance. The more we come to appreciate why our beliefs are true, the more tightly we cling to them. Okay, so the more that we believe in something, the more tightly we cling to it. And whenever anybody tries to pry you off of that and say, no, you're wrong, you grab on even tighter. No, you're not going to convince me otherwise. It's why it's so hard to change a person's mind about something by giving them statistics. If you are a person who tries to fight back against the trolls on the internet, how many people have you truly convinced of the opposite point of view of the one they had? My guess is it's around 0. Because, yeah, exactly. Because they will just hold on tighter. It's belief perseverance. Okay? Once we have explained to ourselves and accepted the truth that our child is gifted, okay, the sooner that happens, the more we will hang on to that, no matter what evidence shows us in the future. It will always be there. Oh, no, my child is gifted. Oh, no, your child is average. Okay, I hate to be the one to break this to you, but no, your kid's average and really should not be in all AP classes. I mean, they literally failed all of their classes last year, and they were all AP and honors classes. You should really just put them into a regular class, but they're gifted. No, they're not. I'm sorry. No. They're just going to hold on tighter. Okay. Okay. Once beliefs get formed and justified, it takes a lot of compelling evidence to change a person's mind. Okay. And this I can say from my own personal experience. I've had these conversations with people, and I don't have the energy for them, so I just don't have them anymore. I used to, I don't want to say argue with, but I used to have a discussion with one of the other teachers on campus who is extremely pro-death penalty. Okay, I am against the death penalty, and he firmly believes that the death penalty should be in existence because it's a deterrent. It's not. It's effective. It's not. And, you know, at the end of the day, some bad people just gotta die. I'm not gonna name names. And I'm like, okay, so number one, if it's such a great deterrent to crime, why don't we use it for everything? I mean, jaywalk, death penalty. Litter, death penalty. Why don't we do that? I mean, it's such a great deterrent. Oh, wait, people are still murdering people because A, they think they can get away with it. B, they don't care. It's a crime of passion. And then C, you know, they don't care about the death penalty anyway. So it's not a deterrent. It is also ineffective. Okay. Do you know how many people have been released from death row because of new evidence? Do you know how many innocent people have died? Yeah. You know how many innocent people have died in the death penalty? How many innocent people are too many innocent people? Because to me, one innocent person being killed by the state in my name, which the death penalty is is one too many. One. Plus, I'd rather see them rot in prison for the rest of their lives. just me being sadistic. Death is a release from their torment of being in prison. And the death penalty isn't cheaper than housing them for the rest of their lives. It's actually a lot more expensive. So it's not saving any money. It's weird. Huh. It's almost like there's no good reason for it, which is why I'm against it. But in our discussions, he just held on to his belief even tighter than before. And no, the death penalty is great. It's great. It's great. It's great. Look at how many people aren't committing crimes. Are you only not murdering people because you fear the death penalty? You're a bad person. I'm not killing people because that's wrong. And I don't want to be wrong. I want to do what's right. It's also why I don't steal. Because it's wrong. But maybe we should institute the death penalty. That'll stop people from stealing right quick, right? Such a great deterrent. But that's my personal belief, okay? If you believe in the death penalty, good on you. But, let's hope you never get called up for a crime that you did not commit and then get put to death for that. Just saying. As some of you cling to your beliefs harder and the rest of you are like, yeah, he's right. That's confirmation bias. You should look up information that contradicts that. See if you still believe. Just saying. All that thought process is complicated. The last bit that we're going to be talking about is intuition. Intuition is that gut feeling that you got, that you're going to, you know how to, figure this out because you've experienced it before, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the problem with intuition. It's born of our experiences. And if we are experiencing something completely new or novel, we don't know how to deal with it. For example, last March, when the COVID-19 virus was being larger and larger and larger, a lot of people said, it's just the flu, okay? It's just the flu. You're going to get over it. You're going to be fine. Flash forward 10 months later, 400,000 Americans are dead. Is it the same thing? Because I can guarantee that we don't have 400,000 people dying of the flu every year. So why did those people dismiss it completely? Because of their experiences. I've had the flu before. It's not that bad. I've gotten over it. I'm fine. I'm not going to die. And then you get fed more information that confirms your bias. And then your beliefs solidify. 400,000 people in the United States are dead because people said, it's just the flu. What does that kill? Like 1,000 people? You're going to be fine. It'll go away, just like the flu does every year. Except it didn't. It stuck around. It got worse. And now if you go to the emergency room, you're not going to the emergency room. You're going to be sitting on that ambulance waiting for somebody to take care of you. Why? Because the hospital is full. COVID's not a joke. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. And don't be around lots of people. At least until we get it under control. Then go out with a whole bunch of people. Have a good time. I know I will. But here's another thing I want you to think about. How long do you think it's going to take, before it's all over, for life to get back to normal? because I think it's going to take a lot longer than you think it's going to take. This was a major traumatic event in a lot of people's lives. I was talking to some people last night that I hadn't talked to in about a year. And, somebody asked, do you know anybody who, has died of COVID? And one of the people was like, yeah, I know 11 people. I'm like, 11? I don't know anybody. Wow. 11 people. This is going to stick with a lot of people after this is all over. This is not going to be one of those situations where you just, it's gone. Okay, I got my shot. Now I'm going out to the ballpark and I'm going to hang around with 50,000 other people without masks. And I'm going to yell and shout until I'm hoarse. That's not going to happen. People are going to remain fearful. They're going to stay inside. They're not going to go back to those concerts. They're not going to go back to the sporting events. They're going to stay at home. And it will take probably a generation, maybe more, for people to get over that. And when you have kids, you're going to be overly protective. You're going to send them to school with a mask. You're going to send them, you're not going to let them go to concerts. No, you can't. It's dangerous. Same kind of a thing happened during the Great Depression. During the Great Depression. The people who were adults when the Great Depression, hit, they were affected for the rest of their lives. They didn't trust banks. They didn't put their money into banks because banks go bankrupt and then they lose everything. And we can't have that. So they stuck their money in a mattress. They stuck the money in the backyard. The same thing is going to happen here. It's going to take a long time for people to feel comfortable eating at a restaurant again. I think for a lot of places, takeout is going to be the new norm. Okay? It takes up a lot less space. It's a lot cheaper. I mean, imagine like Olive Garden or Red Lobster, okay? But it's in a strip mall like a Little Caesars, okay? You walk up, you see the board, you take it home with you. That, I think, is going to be the new norm because it costs a hell of a lot less for the company to run that way. And that's what people are going to be comfortable with. They might have a small seating area outside, but it's going to be a lot of takeout places. A lot of delivery from here on out until we are comfortable and we can go back. People of my generation are going to go back immediately. Basically, as soon as I get my 2 shots and places are open, oh boy, I'm going to go eat in a restaurant. Yeah, because that was my normal. I want to get back to that. But people of your generation, this is going to be your normal. So hopefully you didn't like eating at restaurants. That's what I'm saying. Now that I've depressed the living bejesus out of you, let's call this a day. Yeah, and the best part is, I'm right, because I'm really smart. Yeah, and we're studying psychology. What are people going to do? That's what we're studying. People make choices. These are the choices people are going to make. But on the plus side, I am going to get some sweet tickets to all kinds of sporting events that I never got to go to before because they were always sold out, or I had to sit in the nosebleed seats because, the other ones were too expensive. Oh, these seats are going to be cheap. I'm going to sit courtside. I'm not going to sit courtside. I don't support basketball. Before you ask, it's because I'm from Seattle, okay? And the NBA decided they didn't need my money when they moved the Sonics out of Seattle to Oklahoma. Okay? That's when they said, we don't want your money. You can go away now. All right. No. I don't support basketball or professional basketball, NBA. WNBA? Hell yes, I still do, because Seattle still has a team. I know. Yeah, in 1977. They were the only team to give us a championship, because the Mariners sure as hell haven't, and the Seahawks didn't until a couple of years ago, because they were god awful. Oh God, they were so bad. Anyway, office hours today, 1 to 2 o'clock. If you need me for something, let me know that you're going to be there. Otherwise, I'll probably be napping. Actually, I'll probably be watching TV or something. But that's 1 to 2 o'clock today. So if you need something, please let me know. Otherwise, if you have a question, email me. If you don't have any other questions, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you all on Monday. Have a lovely weekend. Don't do anything that I wouldn't do, like not wear a mask. COVID gone. Oh, that was fun, depressing the bejesus out of all of you. Also, don't be too depressed. It's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. We've now got people in charge who give a damn, or at least can pretend that they give a damn. And isn't that what's important? I think it is. I'm just talking to myself at this point, because I'm sure the three of you that are left are just sitting there, probably not paying any attention. Whatever. Wait, let's stop the recording. God dang it.